Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Levine, and thank you so much for joining me today for the Friday Masterclass, where today it's all about storytelling and choosing the right edit to tell your story. Now, if you've been following along over the last couple of weeks, we've been going through a lot of the editing fundamentals. Very technical stuff, super nerdy details, but today we have a very special guest who's actually going to talk about why we make those edits, why we make the choices that we do, and really inspire you in creative ways about, how to tell that story, how to make those points connect, how to connect with others. This is so awesome. We are so honored to have him here. We're going to bring him up in just a second. As always, of course, we're coming to you live across multiple YouTube channels, Behance, Twitter, and LinkedIn today. So thank you so much for joining, all as well as with our friends from No Film School. So thank you so much. You're in for a real treat today. As always, if you want to be part of the conversation, you can follow the live chat over here. I always do this. All right, b.net/Adobe Live. We will be taking questions live as well. And we've got so much to cover. And really, if you're if you're just kind of starting out, right, as many of you are, we've now given you some tools. We've now given you some concepts, but it's more about that, right? It's like, why do I edit these clips together? Or why do I make this particular choice? Why do I leave silence? Why do I grade something this way? Why? You're going to get the answer to many of those whys with my guest. Now, he is an accomplished producer, director, ACE of MadPix Films. He does a lot of things. I'm actually going to have him give his own origin story. He's also an amazing human being and an extremely kind human, and we're so grateful and happy to have him here. Mr. Doug Blush, how are you today, sir?
Hey, thank you so much. It's great to see you. And you got to do all my PR. I love that intro.
Well, it's my pleasure, man. And like I said, we're so honored to have you on the show. And I can see we've already got lots of, we've got people watching from all over the world, of course. We've got Harsh Poggi from India. Hello. Archer Views, Rogelio Victoria, Shihab is Donald Ping, Brave Indian, Alex Fitch, Laura Stevens, Naveen, Richard Thomas Given, Reverb, Mike, Theo, Wade, Oliver, Phil, Laura, so many more. I can't read them all. I'm running out of breath. I'm going to tell you what, Doug, let's get into a little bit of origin story. I mentioned a little bit about, producing, directing, editing. You also do some teaching as well. Maybe kind of give us a little bit of that origin story and, why you're here today and why you are where you are in the world.
Wow. If I had looked at myself at 18 years old, and I'm especially speaking to the young students and to the young filmmakers who are just kind of getting their sea legs, I had no idea. I'm just a kid from Michigan, and for our North American audience, Michigan is about as far from Hollywood as you get.
Right. So, in climate, in everything, right?
Everything. Yeah. It's like at most we shoot car commercials there. That's about what we do. Right. And when I was growing up, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, is I was the only one who made movies. I was of a high school graduating class of 444. Nobody else did this stuff. Later on, I found out that some people below me in class, like a couple of underclassmen, ended up becoming huge Pixar, superstars. But,
oh wow!
And that's great to know. But beyond that, I was alone. I was basically recruiting my friends to go shoot Super 8 movies in our backyard, blow stuff up, and have it.
Right.
I was having a blast, but nobody understood. And it's also, you had to kind of DIY everything. Let's just say our post tools weren't super sophisticated in those days. And cranking the little 8mm and splicing block. I mean, I really want to go back to that because, this digital nonlinear stuff is really, really not near.
There's a movement. I've been seeing some stuff lately.
I know,
people, right? They're revisiting this again. It's so cool.
Enjoy that, kids. Yeah, enjoy your splicer blocks and cutting your.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You can get classic Nagra recorders now. We're going for thousands on eBay.
Those are cool.
Super
machines.
Cool.
And
cool.
That tape was beautiful with that thing recorded. It's true.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Here we are, and I'm super thankful that I've gotten to see the transition from old analog to where we are now, because the tools and the toys and the wonders that we can do in post and everywhere across production is just it's stunning. I mean, and I got to see it all happen and evolve up. I mean, I think I started with Adobe Premiere on version. I didn't have the original one. I had 4.
Right.
I started on.
Oh wow. Okay.
back in the galloping horse days. Yeah.
Yes.
And we actually made that thing work and did professional work on it back in the day. So
wow.
Pretty amazing to see where it's gone since then. Yeah.
What's funny, you mentioned version 4 because I don't know if you'd remember, and you were obviously probably using Mac back then. Version 5 is where things kind of went a little south. And that was ultimately what kind of was the impetus to create what became Premiere Pro.
The Premiere Pro,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But 4 was kind of a champion at the time. You could really do stuff, of course, I'm trying to think, you probably had like a 2CI or a 2CX machine or something like
maybe.
that.
Maybe. I think I was actually working off of a MacBook 165.
Oh my.
And I was running Premiere off that.
How?
And I know. Second monitor, barely working. But we made
glutton for punishment. Yeah. Now I know you're really an editor because you're a masochist. Trying to do that on a MacBook was very painful.
Go deep nerd on this stuff for days. Yeah. And the thing is, it was so amazing because the potentials, you saw what was possible and you saw where it was going to go, sort of. I mean, we had no idea how amazing it was going to get, but the transitions were there. And the idea that, wow, you could have at that time, I don't think it was infinite audio, but you could do so much with the audio and you could layer tracks and you had transfer modes and all these things that just opened up possibilities that we couldn't dream of if we were working on physical film. So, it wasn't like farm it out to the lab and it comes back 3 days later with a basic dissolve in it. It's like, really right in your face. And so that I always was excited about post, but I didn't start there. I actually started in sound. I went to the University of Southern California. I went to their much ballyhooed cinematic arts program, which I now am a professor in. So I've stayed close to my old fight on.
To your roots. Yeah.
Yep. And it was coming out of film school in those days. I learned completely analog techniques, all analog video and film techniques. And those were exactly useless the second I graduated. Like everything transitioned to digital within minutes after I graduated. So I kind of learned it all over again. And what's really cool about a series like this is part of the inspiration for this generation. If you're going to film school, if you're not going to film school, if you're working in an internship or you're apprenticing with somebody, hearing how other people stumbled through this, I think is kind of helpful. So I started in sound and I got a job right away at a Hollywood sound editing place that was doing TV shows and movies. And it was great pay, kind of a grind. And I learned how to do that stuff. And it was really, really great for my future editing because I always focus on sound almost simultaneous with picture. It's really important to me to design and anticipate sound design and music design.
100%.
It affects how I edit. Editing is not done MOS. You're working on stuff all the time. And to think about that kind of in tandem, I think is really important for editors. So for any editors out there, really focus on your sound design because it's going to make you a much more valuable hire for somebody. It gives you a lot of freedom. You don't have to farm it out to other people. You can do it yourself. Yeah.
And it's something too. I love that you're mentioning this because we've talked about this here. I've talked about this. I mentioned to you in our chat earlier. I was a professional sound engineer still do it, but for really first part of my career. And what I found oftentimes when I did my LA jaunt was, a lot of the video directors, editors, they weren't sound people.
Yeah.
And that was later on would be a real issue for them in terms of finding and keeping work because they kind of couldn't do both. Yeah. And I think the productions often suffered because they weren't coming at it from sound in many ways is actually more than 50% of the final, right? It's more than 50%. You need the visual, but the sound adds so much more of an emotional connection in many ways. I mean, I'm an audio guy, so of course I'm going to say that, but it does, right? There's something fundamental with having that in there, and I love that. I love that you said that. Also, interestingly enough, and I don't know your age, we must be around similar time frame because I studied at Berklee College of Music, got my degree in music production and engineering, all analog. The very beginning of what was then Pro Tools, and it was the year after I graduated. The entire production department was outfitted with digital gear, digital cons. Everything changed. They got this massive grant from Billboard and all these other audio and video companies. And like you said, everything, the fundamentals were necessary, but the delivery method and everything else was completely different and completely changed almost overnight.
Yeah. And has continued. Now it's maturing. And now we have a workflow that actually is pretty much standardized. But it was a wild west back then. I remember all the toys that were coming. I remember the first time I listened to a DAT recording. And I went, wait, no, play me the tape. It's like, no, that is the tape. And I realized it was one of those like inhale moments, like, oh my God, this is going to be completely a different world soon. And we got to ride that surfboard. I mean, your time at Berkeley College, I'm sure the revolutions that were happening changed how people worked. Same thing at USC. When I was there, I was working on the 6-plate moviola flatbeds, and your sound options were 2 pieces of sound.
Right.
Sometimes only the dialogue, basically AB'd across this tape, or across this film that had magnetics on it. And suddenly you tell me I have infinite numbers of tracks. What? What am I going to do with it? Or even give me 10 tracks. That's incredible.
Right. Or it's not going to get inherently degraded every time we wind and play it back again. Right. Yeah. You don't
have to shave it with a razor blade. And make a soft cut. It was such a major revolution. It's literally like the Gutenberg printing press.
Yeah.
The fact that suddenly you could do all this stuff and progressively more and more on your own in, let's say, a bedroom setup somewhere. This would take a bunch of years to get to that point. But the fact that it was doable and that you could own it, and you could do it at home, and you could have this. That's the reason that I'm on my second house now, is because we invested in editing systems early. My very first home editing system was Premiere 4. With a Media 100 card. There you go. And
he's sprinkling the nerdiness all over today. I love it. I love it.
Deep dive. If anybody's interested, there's videos with all the old logos on them and everything.
Doug is currently selling his Media 100 system on eBay.
I'll give you a real good. I'll give you half off the original list price. Yeah,
that's right. Don't tell him what the list price was. Keep that a secret.
But that thing, I always call that, that was when my life changed, really, because I had been an audio person first, and then my dream was to be a DP for a long time, and I did that, and I had some great adventures all over the world. But DP is intense, and your one shoulder will start to go like that on you a little bit. And I was always attracted back to post. And I said, what if I take a little of my ill-gotten gains and I invest in a post-production system for my home? And so I went and took the bank loan and the whole deal, and I bought one of those early systems that was crazy expensive by today's standards. But I will tell you, that was a broken ATM machine shooting money out for the next 5 years. Just insane how much it established me as an editor, me as a post-production presence, also as doing other creative things. I learned After Effects, which I always credit with a lot of jobs that changed the playing field. If you know those other applications, if you know After Effects, if you know Photoshop really well, if you're decent with Illustrator, that adds to your editing cachet. And nowadays, editors interoperate. That's why the suite is so cool, because it interoperates the way we often do as editors. And again, I was an audio person, so I understood that side as well.
Right. You already had that side. That was one of the first bits of advice that somebody in LA gave me was, diversify your knowledge of not just the industries, but of the tools for working in those industries. And this was like in the late 90s when, even those things were pretty primitive back then,
Yeah. And again, even those days, every tool you added to your quiver, it's like, wait, she knows how to do Photoshop and After Effects, and she can edit. Oh, wow, we're sharing her. It doesn't even matter.
You can hear the ka-ching. You can hear the ka-ching in your own head. Yeah.
Well, what rate would you like? It's like, and then you ask. The old rule on rates is ask whatever you don't bust up laughing asking for, and see if they take it. But the bottom line is, this digital revolution was really fun to watch and to be a part of, beta testing, broken down things and bugs and everything. But the wonder was we could do this stuff and we could make stuff really in a geometrically different scale than we used to be able to. And it continues. I mean, the great thing about workflows and speed of processors and all of this is we can do all of these miracles and these layers of filters and things so much faster. So we're working more and more in real time, which is incredible. For editing, it's always real time now. It's pretty even if you're running 8K at this point, you get a new Mac Studio or one of the tricked out whatever the hot graphics cards are now. You can be basically editing 8K raw, which is incredible.
We just had we had a session with someone from Puget Systems just a few weeks back, and they were showing real-time 8K. And even a year or so ago, we were showing, I think, 6K, maybe 4K, but it was unreal. I mean, it was real-time. nothing was hiccuping. It was like, oh no, this is my daily workflow. Oh, and I'm on like an M1 Mac or something or whatever. No, actually, no, they were using a PC system. But yes, I've shown that as well. The capabilities are just unbelievable with what you can do, and so accessible. So let's cut ahead now a little bit to sort of Doug finding that place, living in this new medium, right? So now Premiere's evolved, the tools have evolved. Where does your path start to take you?
Well, I mean, the best thing we ever did, my wife and I ever did, was form our own company. And we did this pretty early in the track of the stuff that I did, because we wanted to be independent. We wanted to make our own things. And we also wanted to be a place people could come for kind of a boutique approach to their films and get good advice and good post-production. But we didn't want to buy a big building in Hollywood. We wanted to make our own like nice mom and pop size studio. And of course, part of that is having, the post stations to be able to do that. So we started to add stations, and we had a few people we brought up, and I started to mentor some people who became our editors as I became more of a producer and director. I would pass on that knowledge, and this took many years. I mean, we were doing not documentary in the early 2000s and making bank on that. This was doing promos for some cable stations and things, and they were delightful because they were all old movies that we were doing trailers for a cable station, and so we did about 600 of those, just one after the next. And those are the kind of jobs that can carry you for 5-6 years. And we had 5 years contract on that. And by the end of that, it was like, okay, now what do we really want to do? And that was make documentaries. So we dedicated ourselves to that. And these days we're a documentary production and advising and teaching hub. We try to be that. My wife and I have directed and produced things together for years. We tour with those films. I also advise on many, many other films. I've cut a bunch of films. I'm directing something that I'll keep quiet for now, but soon will announce. And today on Netflix, I can say this publicly: we have a film that I co-produced and that I did a ton of editing on, called Like a Rolling Stone. The life and times of Ben Fong-Torres, who's a great writer for Rolling Stone. That is on Netflix right now. It just premiered today, and I'm really proud about that. So.
That's awesome.
That's coming out right now.
So I love to, talking about doing like trailers for old movies and doing that, which it kind of also in that process, not only are you obviously, making money doing it, as you mentioned, but you're just refining your craft so that you can kind of share that knowledge. You mentioned mentoring. I love this path and I love this process. And this is something that I encourage too when I sort of, teach and go out and speak, which is everybody wants to make that documentary, that film, that killer album, whatever it is, but it really behooves you to grind, right? The grind is part of it, and it allows you to know what works and what doesn't, and to feel really confident in not only establishing a style and a method, but feeling confident you can share that, knowing that people are going to respond to that, right? I mean, everybody, of course, wants to attain awesomeness instantly, in the world we're in today, but there's beauty in that grind too. It can be painful, right? Blood, sweat, and tears. It's a drag, but I love that, like you're talking about it, and it feels you're so like elated talking about it.
Well, I still like what I do. Not everybody claims that, and I love what I do. I love creating. I just finished a sequence for this film that's premiering today. When we were looking for some context in the opening of that film, I said, what if we do this? And I just made it happen. And it was like a magic block fell into place. And then the end of the movie made sense. Then we could bookend the end of the movie with that sequence. And so a lot of times I do focus on openings and endings a lot, because you want the film to have a logic that you start someplace and you come back there with a lot more knowledge by the end. So a lot of films do have this sort of bookend structure. Not all of them do, but many are very effective when you start with a mystery and you end with I'm a better person for knowing all this now,
This is a great segue actually into pulling up some content, and this is something which I want to revisit as we're showing some of this footage. This idea of seeing the beginning and the ending, right? And as someone who's produces a lot of music and has produced a lot of music, and I'm sure you having done so much audio, that's part of the producer's job, right? Is you kind of know what the end result is. You could use like Sergeant Pepper is an example. George Martin envisioned this thing, right? And no one really knew exactly how they were going to get there, but they could see the potential of what was happening there, and the path to getting there was just, okay, let's just be even more creative. No idea is a bad idea. But having that vision of kind of seeing where the end is and then kind of filling the space in the middle, I love that. And I think there's great value in that too, for storytelling, of course, because you got to know where you're going. And in fact, interestingly, watching, I don't know if you watched the Beatles Get Back, Peter Jackson film.
God, yeah.
I'm on viewing number 6, by the way. I have
all 8 hours. Wow. Yeah.
I have consumed 40 hours of my life in its entirety already, and I'm on viewing number 6. And what I love about this is and first, kudos to Michael Lindsay Hogg in 1969 for shooting that way so much and so much. I can't even imagine how many canisters of film they occupied over 27 days. And the fact it all
survived to be restored so beautifully. Yeah. And
so beautifully. Yeah. But it's kind of interesting because he says it throughout this film, which we didn't know in the original Let It Be film. He didn't know what story he was telling.
Yeah.
He knew, though, that he had to capture all of these moments. So it's so amazing to hear that he says, I don't know what story we're telling anymore. There's a line like, so far we've got a story about, nose pickers, nail biters, and something else, coffee drinkers or something, like tea drinkers. And, but Peter Jackson's like, no, I can now see the beginning and the end. Now we're going to fill it in with all of this other stuff. So many things revealed there, but it's such an important, for anyone who hasn't watched it, I've talked about it a million times, right? It's really something else. Just to see that in process.
Seems so elegant, and yet it's very much experiential. You're not forced to race through sequences. You just let things happen. It's brilliantly edited. I hope they study this for 100 years in editing seminars, because it so honors the footage. They had this incredible resource and they used it. And fortunately, Apple was really, really kind to say, make it as long as you need to make it. Because if you crush that down to 2 hours, it wouldn't have had any of the power it has to
No.
Yeah, you have to.
Doug, if I wasn't already like completely in awe of you, and you just added 1,000 more points, really, man.
Hey,
love that comment.
If I cut that thing, you could have really thought I was great.
Well, yeah, I'd be sending you gifts daily. All right, with that, people are getting antsy. Let's start showing some stuff.
Let me show you some stuff. I started off talking about beginnings, and I really concentrate on those, and our teams are really focused on openings. And I will say that usually what happens is, with documentaries especially, I don't think of it as you've got to start with the open and then go linearly through the film. Beginnings are really important, but they might not happen for a long time. Your process might not allow you to find the perfect open until way into the process. And maybe you'll have 9 other openings. I do a whole lecture about alternate openings for a doc that I worked on, where we had like literally 5 or 6 versions. They were all good, but then we had one that was really good. And that was we had to fight through it and figure it out. And the rest of the film informed why we should open that way. In the case of what I'm about to show you, what was really cool about it is we used all the tools in post and all the artistic possibilities of post to really make what could have been a fun opening with a guy sitting in a chair telling a story. We turned it into something that honored the subject itself. And I'll set this up a little bit. This is from a film from about 10 years ago called Superheroes. And this is when the MCU is just getting going, and all this stuff is happening. But my friend Mike Barnett, who's one of my favorite people, is just a beautiful soul, that guy. He said, there's this movement going on around the country of real life superheroes. There are people who go out at night, put on costumes, and fight crime for real. And he said, I got to document this. Yeah. So he had this thing. It's like, do you know the new Canon 5D shoots video? And you can go out.
Oh, yes.
So this was one of the very first, it might have been the very first feature film shot on Canon 5Ds.
Entirely on 5D.
Natural light, super fast lenses, super mobile. And we tracked real life superheroes through their nightly prowling around the cities and things. And it's one of my favorite films because it works on a bunch of levels. It's really funny. And it's really bizarre, and it's got the intrigue of superheroes, but it's also a deep moral question of These people believe in something. And what we're asking the audience is, what do you believe? Are you willing to put your beliefs on the line? Would you go defend your concepts of justice or democracy or something? And so the movie's a lot deeper than just like, oh, it's kooky people in costumes. They're actually
in costumes. Yeah.
Yeah, they end up being pretty noble. And when we do the ending of this film, which I hope we have time to show, I will show you how we brought that home. But the opening, the fun part of this is we've got a story, and it's a guy talking about a thing he did. It's a night patrol he did. And we said, all right, we could just show him sitting there and talking. That would be fine. But what if we honor his vision of what it looked like, and let's put it into a comic universe? Let's take this thing and create a world for him where this is his place and this is how he imagined it happening. So we actually did an animatic to the cut. We cut what we call the radio cut. We cut his story into what we liked, the length we liked it, and then we got that right. And then we did sort of animatics of, okay, then this frame will be here, and then we'll move over to this frame and stuff. And we did this all just simple black and white pencil drawings. And it's very easy, tools like Premiere, you can just drop them in there, do a basic animatic, and you've got your timing. Then you send it on to the pros, and we got this great animation house who really did graphic novel style illustrations of this. So this is the opening of Superheroes, and I think you'll see.
Can you go ahead and share
I'm going to share this. Yeah. Here we go. Oops. Let me go to the windows, and I will show you the opening of this. This was on HBO. It still is on HBO if anybody's interested in seeing it. It's a great movie. I just love this thing. So here's your share, and we'll just go ahead and play this out.
All right.
I have to find the window on my own screen. I've got all these quick times up. All right, here we go.
Well, we were actually out on a patrol. I hear a scream in an alley. We start going into this dark alley, really dark. The scream started getting louder. As we got closer and closer, the next thing I saw was this woman, and this guy was stomping on her head. And I got in front of my partner, and I just shouted at the guy. I just said, "Hey!" And then he bolted so fast. "Stop, asshole!" He ducks into another alley, and we back him up against the wall. Tries to get past us. My partner says, "Hey, don't make me take you down." And I have my hands up, open palms, kind of like a Muay Thai stance. I just told him, "Hey, man, back up. Don't go no place. Just calm down. Stay where you're at." And he tried to get past us, but we just blocked him in. All of a sudden, a squad car comes up. She puts him in handcuffs, throws him in the back, and he ended up getting 34 years.
Wow.
Okay.
But before we even comment, just again, that's all 5D?
That's all 5D footage, yes. The whole thing was shot on a pair of 5Ds.
I mean, if anyone needs further proof that the DSLR boom of the 2010s, changed filmmaking forever.
Oh man, this film could not have been made with big shoulder-mounted cameras. It's like you had to be stealthy. You had to go out into the streets with really fast 50 millimeters, like 1.2s, so you could shoot.
Right.
And
I have that lens.
Great, super. Yeah, what a great lens. Those super noir kind of feels, because you can't light this stuff. You have to go out and just witness it, right? Yeah, and somebody asked, what's the name of the film? It's called Superheroes. It couldn't be easier. And it's on HBO Max. If you look for it, it's still in their catalog, and you can get it on a lot of libraries have it. Interestingly enough, so it's still out there on TV and stuff. Yeah.
By the way, somebody was just asking. I saw a couple of people are about what does MOS stand for. So that's mit out sound. I don't remember the exact mit out, which means no sound. But I don't remember the exact history. It's an old Hollywood thing, right? German director or something.
Like we started doing sound film, but the Germans jumped right in and were doing sound right away. And they sort of coined the term that this will be without sound, mit out sound. And so it's because a bunch of German DPs and a lot of German talent came over to the United States. They brought this
to work in Hollywood.
Sound.
That's right.
And
it's still the term today. Yep, MOS. So cool. So cool. And again, that's Superheroes. So I mean, something like this. And again, you're sort of talking about the access when you're shooting something like that, when you're thinking about these stories evolving. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming you pre-screened some of these people, right? You talked to them, they told you their stories.
Yeah. You find out what's ahead.
But then you're in these back alleys. People are, climbing up walls and doing all of these things. I mean, what does that look? What does it look like to the person who's filming it? And then what are you doing in terms of crafting those stories? Because it seems like it could be a lot of likening it to like going to a safari and waiting for the lion to do something. Yes. Right? Sometimes they're just running around. Maybe there's no action, right? I mean, so what is that process like? Of like, sort of, what are you thinking about? Because you're sort of, to some degree, I imagine, waiting for things to occur.
It's a great question, because sometimes the theme of the movie will illustrate what that scene's good for. Like, how does this go to the bigger theme of what I'm talking about in this movie? Other times you're handed gold and you get a scene that's clearly the scene wants to be this thing that happens. Right. And we had about 10 of those on this movie. It was like we just kept having these incredible moments of, and all credit to our DPs who were on the scene. They were paying attention. They got the moments, and also my co-editor, Derek Boonstra, who's a dear friend, did such a great job on so many of these sequences. Much of what I did was either polish or reviewing or recutting or helping, just get better ideas. But, we had a great team. And that great team was really open to, okay, this moment's great. We have to use this. We're going to flag this. It's going to be in the movie. We don't know where it's going to go yet, but we're going to use it. There are about 18 scenes I could show from this movie. It's better if you just watch it. If anybody out there has HBO or can find it.
HBOMAX, yeah. All
right. You can see how we constructed this film to go from the wildness of that opening and the strangeness of these people's lives to gradually getting under the skin and finding out that they're real human beings with real emotions and real cares and real dedication to their purpose. And in many cases, it costs them dearly. It's a lonely life. It causes personal issues. It's expensive sometimes to go and do this and not do other things. And in the end, it's a moral question. It's like, do you believe enough to dedicate yourself to something? And the movie's about a bigger thing. But the opening, we wanted to be as exciting as the then Marvel films were going on. And we were inspired by those early MCU films. We said, let's make it as cool as a superhero film is going to be. And so we got the score going, and you saw the animation and then the multi-frame title sequence.
Yes, a nod to the sort of cartoonified reality scenes. Yeah, that was
we wanted
very
it
cool.
To be in their universe. This was our own MCU we created there. And then later we kind of bust that apart because a lot of the film takes place in the real world, which can be very hard and disappointing compared to the fantasy of being a superhero. So that's kind of the wonderful tension in the movie. And it's a lot of humor in there too, just how reality doesn't quite go the way the comic books go. And the reality is really funny sometimes.
Right.
So if we have time, I'll come back and I'll show you how we bring that theme home at the end.
Okay. Yes.
I love the way this movie ends. I absolutely love where it comes at the end. But in the meantime, I could show something else that I think in terms of editing, sometimes you think, how are we going to tell this story in a maximal way? How are we going to get all the resources we need? And, oh, we're going to need archival and photos, and we got to go shoot some recreations or whatever else. And sometimes you don't do that. Sometimes you pull back and you really just honor the moment that's happening. And the next clip I'm going to show you is usually, if they do a retrospective on this film, they usually show this clip because it's just stunning what happens in this clip. It's from 20 Feet from Stardom, which we were, my co-editors and I, who are amazing, Kevin Klauber and Jason Zeldis, who did so much work on this film. I was just really lucky to be a part of this team. And we ended up winning the ACE, the American Cinema Editors Award, for this. Yes. And we did win an Oscar for this film. So
right. Saw the photo.
kind of a good
kind
film.
Of a big deal. Kind of, you're so casual about it.
It raised our rates a little, It was a joy to work on. It was one of those magic films where you just everything comes together, and you get gold on tape, and then you bring it back to the post and you make more gold out of it. Morgan Neville, our director, is so intuitive about finding what the truth of a story is. So this scene, we ended up stripping this down to its bare kind of roots, and it's really about two people talking about a big memory that they have. So I'm just going to play it. And this is from 20 Feet from Stardom.
Okay.
And here we go.
And then when I got to A&M, I was coming down the stairs from Lou's office. Joe was coming on the lot from that front gate, and he says, "There she bloody is." He said, "I want you to work on all of my records." And any moment you would see James Taylor coming down the hallway, or you'd see Carol coming out saying, "Come sing with me." Let me in, honey, to my other home. Woo! What a great studio. Boy, did we have some time in this studio. So it was like very late at night, and I was very, a little pregnant. Had curlers and the whole thing in my head, getting ready to go to bed. And we got a call, Barry, there's a group of guys in town called Rolling Somebodies. And they're from England, and they need somebody that will sing with them. They picked me up with silk pajamas on, a mink coat, and a Chanel scarf on my head.
We said it would be wonderful if a woman sang this part that I'd written about rape, murder, and all this. It was in the middle of the night, and we thought, well, we would love to have a woman sing this part. I didn't know her, and from Adam. Then she turned up in her curlers. She was in bed, and she got out of bed. And, it was a kind of raunchy part to sing.
I said, what? Rape, murder? It's just a shot away. I started to sing, "Oh, children, just a shot away, just a shot away," with Mick.
She sings the lyrics right along me, and with a lot of personality, which is what was needed.
What I liked was that she could sing. She was able to be Mary. She didn't have to bring it down.
He said, "You want to do another one?" I said, "Sure, I'll do another one."
I mean, she just did it like a couple of times,
So I said to myself, I'm going to do another one. Blow them out of this room. I went in again, and I did that pass on the part that says, "Rape, murder, just a shot away." So I had to go up another octave.
Yeah. Rape, murder, it's just a shot away. It's just a shot away. Rape, murder, yeah. It's just a shot away. It's just a shot away. Rape, murder, it's just a shot away. It's just a shot away.
You do these things at sort of 2 a.m, and then you come in the next day and you go, "Fucking hell, that's good."
Yeah. I don't hear a hand clap.
Everybody was telling us we had to bring everything down. So when the rock and roll world came and said, no, we want you to sing. It saved us. Saved us. Saved our lives.
Okay.
Wow.
So that story, I mean, obviously, just Mary brings it home so beautifully there. And it's really about respecting her moment, and just, it's really about her face. That we made an agreement earlier. It was like, this is really about her face telling this story and letting her words carry us, and then letting the ISO tracks of the song really tell us, okay, this is going to be about a memory, but we're not going to do what a lot of documentaries do. We're not going to cut to still photos, and we're not going to try to recreate the moment or anything in this. We're just going to let two people tell it, basically Mick Jagger and her. And that simplicity is a little of a duck, because it's not simple at all. And in fact, if I can share again real quick, I want to show one of many very crafty edits that the team put together. Let's see, I just have to share this. And
I gotta say, it looks like we may have just hit some copyright issues on YouTube, unfortunately. So for those who wanting to continue to watch, you can catch it on Twitter and on Behance, behance.net/Adobe Live. Wow, I'm still kind of moved by that. But what I love talking about, though, stylistically, how you're lingering on her, not saying anything, pushing in, right? Taking time, letting these things breathe, compared to, again, looking at, and this is 2013, you said. Mm-hmm. When you look at 2012 or the previous film, stylistically different, but, faster cuts, just a lot of motion. I mean, I'm not kidding when I said, I think everybody watching is feeling it too. You're feeling this, and the way that you're drawing the viewer in is by lingering, right? And not cutting away.
That, and we had to learn that. We had to watch the footage and realize that this was about letting the moment really take you in. And sometimes, faster isn't better, and you have to just let the moment happen. But it's pretty it's devious, because there's a lot of resets in this. If you watch the sequence, there's a lot of edits in it, but it doesn't really feel like it. Right. We also, and this is something I tell people in my fiction classes as well as my documentary classes, really explore your footage. Your footage has secrets in there that can make a scene happen with just a sideways glance, or a look up from another take, or maybe a stolen thing from the same set but a different time. And editing is not like just what you're given in the take. It's not just what you're allowed there. You can really hunt around. You can even use stuff before they slate the take. You can use stuff from the post roll. Sometimes our best reactions are during our camera setups. And if you look real carefully in this sequence, and I was gonna
say, there was a second where someone walked in front of camera too, right?
Yep. That was kind of cool. And this is all from the camera setup. I'll park it on a frame where you can see there's a camera person crossing in the background, and you do not notice that. But that's what we want there, going forward. Now, I won't play it so we don't get banned, but like somebody walking in the background. You didn't notice that, but that was the shot we needed. There's another moment that it's one of my favorite edits in this whole sequence. We wanted to reset the shot, and Mary has this great laugh. Let me see. I always have to find it again. And so she's thinking about stuff. There's a lot of, notice the camera movement. It's very subtle. We do a lot of push-ins, and every time we do a push-in, we reset back to the wide to come back and get that emotion going. This is my favorite push-in. I can turn the audio off.
Yeah, let's turn the audio down. Yeah.
But here, as she's listening to the song, this is where we turn up the track.
That's what I was referencing. Yep.
And there's that push-in, and it's so important, because that's one of the times when she's really listening to the music playback. And she's there, but a lot of these reactions have nothing to do with real time. Like, she's not actually listening to the song at that time, but her reaction is just right. Right here is says, "Do you want to do one more? Okay, we'll do one more." Yeah, we just did a couple times, is what Mick's saying. And then watch what happens here. So she says, "I'm going to blow these guys out of this room." We wanted to reset the shot. That little pass by right there. I'll rock and roll it again.
Yep.
That little pass by, we're in a super close up. We wanted to reset the wide to get her whole body. That is not the same laugh, but it matches almost perfectly.
The motion of her body and everything.
It's a natural wipe. There's a person passing in front. Again, it's during setup. We stole the shot out of our setup. Had this little laugh. We were just chatting with her. And then we come back to her in that same close-up, and we've just had this like whole studio around her. We got the whole body language. Then we come back to her again instead of just playing it out as a close-up. So this is how you really, really plunder your footage, and you really look for things. And this goes for everything. A lot of fiction films, you know, the actor might not be turning in the right performance, but you can find it if you're really crafty and you go to the right reaction at the right time. You can find those pieces, and it just takes really paying attention to your footage.
That's amazing. And a little unknown fact, Doug's original intention for that scene was to use a star wipe. So look at how much better it got. Yep.
I'm going to go way back. Kiki wipe. That's what
the Kiki wipe. Oh my God. Shout out to Kiki Stockhammer.
Knows the Kiki
That's
wipe.
right.
I'm very proud.
Shout out to Kiki Stockhammer. Yeah, I wonder if she was at NAB this year. Oh, hey Kiki, how you doing? Hey Carl.
Kiki. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, it's really about never giving up. Like the scene can, and this is the curse of an editor, the scene can always be better. Even the locked version that won the Oscar, the scene can be better. There are things, whenever I watch the work I've done over the years, it's like, oh man, I would love another pass at that. I want to take this out and I'd love to shorten that. And the problem is you run out of time. Really, you know, film is a medium where it's not finished, it's abandoned because of lack of time. You basically have to turn it over. You have to let it go. And hopefully enough people like it when you put it out there, you know.
Right. That segues into, now listen, I just wanted to keep us honest with time. So we've got about 8 minutes. So if we want to show something else, but before we get to this next or last clip, just kind of talk about that for a second, because this concept where it's sort of, it's never really done. It's never really done or it's abandoned. What about that? So as a director, as an editor, how much do you sort of have to let it go? Right? Because otherwise it'll never be done. You could cut and recut and recut a million times. Is there a cutoff point for you where you say, all right, this is it. This is the one. Stop thinking, stop obsessing. Because I hear this a lot from young editors, like, oh, it takes me 6 hours to edit this 30-second YouTube clip because I had so many variations, because we can shoot so many variations. I couldn't choose. Do you have advice, or how do you choose? How do you make that determination? How do you destructively go, this done? Dot final, dot almost final.
Yeah, dot final version 9. Yeah.
Right.
The truth is there are 3 reasons why you stop working on something or you stop editing. Number 1 is you're out of money, which is number 1 reason. You got to turn it over. Number 2 is somebody else told you to stop, which is a subset of maybe you're out of money or there's a deadline or whatever, and you have to stop. And number 3 is you can't stand it anymore, or you've collapsed on the floor and you have to be taken to a hospital. Those are the 3
He's
reasons.
Not kidding, fans. He's not kidding.
Yeah, there's no such thing as, it's done. I've never had a cut where I said, okay, I'm fine, done, let's ship it. I'm always like, could we just do a couple little things? Could we look at that again? And the truth is you have to get comfortable with your work. People are liking your work. You're getting it out there. And there is a timetable to this. If you don't ever get your work out there, nobody's going to come back and appreciate it and pay you for it and all that other stuff. So you have to have a finishing process. And one of those 3 things usually does it.
I love it. And that's very honest too, right? I mean, again, referencing Peter Jackson, he talked about that. I've heard him talk about that with LOTR, but specifically more recently with Get Back. I mean, he had 60 plus hours. I think the first cut he mentioned was like 14 or 16 hours.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and he said, oh, no, maybe a little too long. They wanted 6. And then it was the last week, because they had already advertised 3 2-hour episodes. The last week he said, okay, no, it's 2:45, 2:57, 2:10. You know, it was 8 hours.
He did that thing. He said, well, it's still under 3. You know,
just a little, just under 3. Yeah, love that.
Love it. And good for him. He did it right. So yeah, I guess as we're coming into the gate, I'd love to show this end scene because it goes back to how we come full circle to things. And this film, Superheroes, is about the moral importance of what these people are doing. Not just that they're crazy people with costumes; they're actually much more than that. And they do have a moral code. And at the end, we wanted to highlight that moral code by highlighting what most people think comic books and superheroes are, and then contrasting it with what they do. And so that was the construction idea that built up through the whole film, block by block, scene by scene. And you get this convergence of our guy who told the story at the beginning. There were many other superheroes in the film, but he's kind of our core guy. And he tells a story at the end that makes good on some of the ideas that he's talking about the moral code and things like that. Let me see. Did I bring it up? Hang on one second. I've got to actually look it up real quick. Let me cancel the share.
While you're doing that, maybe this is something we can, hold on, I just missed a question here. Someone was asking, all right,
sure, and any questions real quick.
Shihabis is asking, so how do you see the industry moving as it is going more towards social media content?
Right. Well, I'll tell you, every doc we do, feature docs, and I work primarily in feature docs. I do some episodic TV, but mostly feature docs. We always have a social media aspect to it. We will cut out pieces of the doc that are really showstoppers, or maybe we put a hot trailer or a sizzle reel or something together for it, and that usually is our social media presence. But there are great short documentaries being made on social media now. There's great stuff on Vimeo, YouTube, obviously Instagram and TikTok are the micro edit things, which by the way is not new. They've been the super micro edits done before. 5-second films, look it up. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Things ever on YouTube.
You can get down the rabbit hole real quick with looking at those too. It's
5-second films. I teach those. I actually teach those and we analyze them. Say, how are these to be a perfect 5-second story?
Douglas, USC, check it out.
Right, I can do an hour on 5-second film. It's I can do 3 hours on that scene we just saw. But I won't. So we'll show this. Do we have
Barefoot Up to My Soul? Yeah, well, Barefoot Up to My Soul saying, keeping my fingers crossed, my eyes crossed, my legs crossed, because this was suspended midstream and there was no toilet paper left.
No.
Okay, so hopefully we're not going to get, they won't mute the visual here.
Okay, well, this one doesn't have copyrighted music in it, so hopefully we'll be okay. So I'm going to share this. This is it's about a 4.5 minute scene, but I won't play the credits at the end, which has a song in it. So this is the end of Superheroes, and this is where we land at the end, where we kind of find out the real moral code of the superheroes and what they're really about. Okay, here you go.
Now, for those watching, in case we run out, this may be goodbye. I don't know. The band hammer may come because we've got approximately 4.5 minutes. So if we don't get to say goodbye, we've got the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge coming up after this. Quickly, Doug, I know you'll hang around with me, but thank you so much for this. Your insight,
it's a pleasure.
Your teaching, your just the spirit, everything that you've said in this incredible advice, and so many people watching got so much love in all the various chats. So thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get back to it.
Here we go. Superheroes, the ending.
San Diego's largest local event is now underway at the first full day of Comic-Con. The annual convention is expected to draw more than 130,000 people to the downtown area this weekend.
Hey, can you guys get kind of close together? Awesome. Well, this meetup is to help the homeless and the needy by giving them water and food. Also, just to let them know that we're the good guys and we're here to help, and also to promote unity and camaraderie within real life superhero scene.
It's one of the most important things we do. All of a sudden, I'm not the only crazy person out here in a mask and a costume. I have a lot of other friends. And when we leave, we take that knowledge of how to function as a team back to wherever we are to meet up with other people and spread that.
Sir, did you need some cold water? What we're trying to do is we're trying to promote goodwill here today, and I think we're doing just that. I hope this campaign goes well. Today is today. And tomorrow will be another day, and hopefully tomorrow is just like today. But you never know, only time will tell.
Man, you guys are fantastic.
Yeah, we'll do what we can.
You guys with Comic-Con?
No, actually, we're the real deals.
You're the real deals, huh?
Real deals.
That's what it matters, man. Y'all the real deal.
You guys be safe today.
Captain Save everybody.
Keep it cool.
Thank you, man.
Sure.
We all need superheroes in our lives. People like these is how come we all live and survive. They take care of us. And if people say they ain't real, then they don't know what they're talking about. Because this is true, this is real.
You guys look good, man. You guys.
Thank you. I think it's remarkable what they do. I think it's
very unselfish.
Indeed. I appreciate it. Bless you all.
We all need superheroes. And there's the superheroes right there. We need them more than they'll ever know.
I admire their courage. I admire their objectives. And whatever they're doing, I just hope they're successful at it.
I mean, it's not as exciting as the movies and the comics and all that stuff portray it to be. I have the freedom to pretty much do what I want and go out and help people. You know, and it's an awesome feeling. Just getting out there and trying to do what I do. The extreme justice. Alrighty.
If we all do a little something, we can make this place better. You know, there's a hero in everybody, and we just need to start letting it out.
If we can get real life superheroes in every city in America, I think that would be an amazing thing.
We're not a fad that's going to go away. There may not be that many of us. We may not be the best and the brightest, but we do what we can to do what we care about.
If everybody does one little bit to their corner of the world, like ripples in a pond, things will spread out. Things can be made better.
More people simply need to get involved so we can really truly make an impact out there. It's not the costume that makes you a superhero. It's what's in your heart and what you do. That's what makes you a real life superhero.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. Everyone, thank you so much. We are out of time. Check out Doug Blush on IMDb. Check out his movies. Learn more. Get inspired. Improve your filmmaking. And Doug, thank you so much from all of us watching. It was an absolute joy to have you on Adobe Live.
It all happens.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thanks so much. Cheers.